Good afternoon. I'm WA3FET, the inventor of the field effect transistor. Oh, no, not quite. Okay. I think we should give Chip a round of applause for putting this on. So, anyway, thank you very much, Chip, and for everybody that's here today. Just a couple pictures. The one up on the right, that was me in college as an undergraduate student. Of course, always sitting in front of a ham radio since I was 12 years old when I got my first license. And then the picture up on the left there at the top, that's the HARP facility. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I had a patent on that for the design of the HARP antennas. And then, of course, everybody probably knows that round plate there, or the round dish, that's Arecibo. And everybody knows that collapse, but I spent about almost 50 years working with that facility. And my brother from another mother, Angel over there, says that I have the gift of gab. So you're going to tell me when I have about a 30 minutes left, right? Okay. Anyway, what is innovation? If you're going to talk about it, you should go and look it up. And where do you go? The dictionary. And it says a new idea, method, or device, a novelty, the introduction of something new, okay? And basically this innovation concept is something I've been thinking about ever since like junior high and high school, mainly in antennas, trying to get antennas to work better. And then if you're trying to do some research and find out about innovation, where do you go? You go to Google, right? And you say, give me the greatest innovators of all time, and it comes up on many websites and says the 12 greatest of all time. And most of you know a lot of these people, okay? So I'm not going to go through them. Fleming, you may not know as much. He was the transcontinental railways of the 19th century. But I think everybody knows pretty much the other ones there. And some of them go way back, like Leonardo da Vinci, and some of them are pretty recent, like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates there. And here's a few more. Looks like the text got a little bit screwed up here on the sentence, at least on the computer. But anyway, Galileo, that goes way back. Some of you may not know Richard Feynman, but anybody that's in physics and engineering will definitely know that name, okay? And here's pictures of them, and I guess you can probably tell which ones are the ones from antiquity and the ones from today. And probably most of you would know, especially with ham radio, if we put one of these pictures up, you'd probably know who they are. Maybe some of you wouldn't know some of them, okay? But then we have radio, and of course I'm always thinking about antennas as well. And who were some of the most famous innovators there? Well, the three at the top, I don't even put their names because they're so esteemed. The one on the left is James Clerk Maxwell. He's the one that came up with the equations that describes electromagnetics and light and everything. And he should be as famous as Einstein. Even Einstein said that he should be more famous. But if you go to Scotland and you ask the person on the street, do you know who James Clerk Maxwell is? They don't even know in their own country. But he is that famous. And of course, the next guy to the right is Faraday, and the next one over is Ampere. And so those two men came up with all the experiments and so forth, and then Maxwell put it all together. And then there's a lot of radio people like Hertz and Tesla. Alexanderson, you may not know as much, but he actually got speech into radio. And then, of course, Fezenden And then some more modern people, Armstrong, Marconi, DeForest, and Sarnoff. And I'm not going to go through each one, but you see the information there if you want to look it up. Well, myself, starting out at ham radio, the book I used was the ARRL antenna book. It was only about that thick in those days. And I had it, pages were flying out all the time. I had to keep buying new copies because I just read that book over and over. Then when I got a little bit older and started into college, I needed to have some more information, more technical information. And of course, Maxwell's where you go first. And then John Krause, the 1950s antenna book. And this book also got destroyed because I kept opening it so many times. And that's W8JK for a lot of the people in here might have even used some W8JK antennas. Invented so many things, true innovator. The helix antenna, the T-match, all kind of things. And I got to know John Krause, and he sent me his second edition, which I reviewed, and then he sent me an autographed copy with this inscribed in it, and I treasure that. And then this guy here spent his whole life on the dipole antenna, which hams do all the time, right? But he was a professor at Harvard, and on the dipole and monopole, and he made the best measurements that anybody could make, and we still use those today. And he lived to 101, and he was still writing books and papers at age 100. At Arecibo, which I started there as a summer student in 1974, I met this fella, Sam Harris. Some of you probably know of him, a moon bouncing, and he was hard to get to know, okay? But then if he liked you a lot, and he used to only have hams come to his house, you had to show a license to get into the place, and you always had to eat a plate of spaghetti too, but that's another story. But anyway, he was a real innovator, okay? And I learned so much from Sam, and we got to be very close friends. That picture on the left, that's him where they sent a signal up to the moon from Massachusetts, and he was in California, and he has the scissors on his beard like this here, and the moon bounce actually started the scissors to trim his beard, believe it or not. And of course, Joe Taylor, I met him at Arecibo as well. K1JT, and we did moon bounce with Angel and other friends in 2010, but Joe is a real modern innovator, a real inspiration, because he came up with FT8 as well. I think sometimes he might, be more proud of this than the Nobel Prize, but I'm sure he likes that too. And of course, then there's Penn State, okay? And that's where I ended up. I was doing things in high school and so forth. And in high school, I was trying to see, how can I make this dipole smaller, okay? I didn't want to do a half-wave dipole. So this is probably one of my first innovations I can remember, because I'm getting old and forgetting everything. But, a half-wave dipole, how can we make that shorter and make it still work, okay? That was something I wanted to try to do. And so antennas in dielectric mediums, the speed is lower, the velocity of the wave, and so that means the physical length can be reduced by the square root of the dielectric constant. And so I said, we want to get something that really makes it small, so water would be a good thing. 81 is the dielectric constant, so that means we can make the length 9 times smaller. But there's a problem, the impedance also goes down by 9 times. So that would drop as well. Instead of being 72 ohms, it'd be down to 8 ohms. That's not going to be too good. And so I go back and get the Krause book that's all sort of pages ripped out and everything, and I find the secret solution to make a folded dipole. And he says if you take the number of wires and you take the square of those wires, you'll get the impedance up by the square. So we need 3 wires to get it back up again from 9 up to from 8 up to 72. So you make a 3-wire folded dipole. But where are you going to put this? Well, PVC pipe to the rescue. Okay, and this I did as an undergrad, and I was started it in high school, and then when I got into Penn State, and somebody said, you need to meet the antenna professor. And so I showed him this idea, and he said, yeah, let's let you work on that. And then I worked at his research facility, and so forth. Anyway, you do this antenna in a PVC pipe, and you fill it up with water, and you see if the signals come up, okay? Well, the signals did come up. Of course, a 3-foot dipole, this was on 20 meters, it really doesn't receive very good. Everybody would know that. And I poured the water in, and wow, the signals came up like 20 dB or so. And I thought, this is it. I found it. But I compared it to a regular dipole, and it wasn't as good. It was down an S unit or a couple S units. So I said, there's something wrong. And it turns out, I started studying and researching. There was a professor, J.R. James, that was doing dielectric loading of antennas. And he said, you can only do this if you're above 100 megahertz. And I was below 100 megahertz quite a bit. So I was just at the wrong frequency at the wrong time, you might say. So anyway, the rest is history, okay? And I thought I'd just put a few things up here. Again, like Howard, I could go into each of these for a whole hour. And I think I have at some of the antenna forums that some of you may have attended. But NEC 4, I worked at Livermore, and I was the main person that said NEC 2 isn't working on telescoping tubing and Yagis. And so with Jerry Burton, we made NEC 4. I worked with Al Chrisman at Livermore to do elevated radials that people know about. The OWA Yagi, I didn't want a patent, I just wanted people to use it. And I guess that's one of the most used Yagis in the world. We did the regular terrain studies with helicopters and using diffraction codes to model the terrain, and that created TA and HFTA. I came up with some new log periodic designs, methods, and I just wrote that up in the new antenna manual that's going to be coming out, ARRL with Ward. The Skyhawk antenna, Tim Duffy, K3LR, he did the mechanical design, I did the electrical design. And we just got an upfront cost. That was way back in the early 90s. And we should have taken a royalty because they're still selling it today at DX Engineering. At Arecibo, as a summer student, I did the 100-foot dish. And my master's degree, Penn State, was the first Arecibo heating facility. I'm also an audiophile with my friend Steve Floyd over there. And you're going to hear about him. And I've done a lot of audio studies. TACAMO is a traveling wire antenna, and the HART facility I mentioned before, the E2C Hawkeye, we replaced the mechanically rotating antenna in the dome phased array with an electronic phased array, a patent on low-profile AM and shortwave broadcast antennas, and many antenna feeds in the Arecibo Gregorian dish, and the second heating facility. And if you look down at the right, you can see the array of HF dipoles there, and there's a mesh, a Cassegrain system of feeding the dish. And the project I'm working on now, which Nathaniel may be interested in, is that we're trying to replace the antenna, big HF log periodic array at the South Pole, Antarctica, and it's for the Super Darn project that he's talking about. But to close up here, I think the most impactful thing that I've done has been being a professor. I just retired in December as professor emeritus after 33 years, been at Penn State associated for 50 years, and teaching young people and graduate students. That's the real technical achievement, in my opinion. And one that I'm really proud of is something called First Year Freshman Seminar. It started back in 1998 at all universities. Any students in here, universities probably had to take that course. And so they asked me, could I teach one on ham radio? I said, pinch me, I'll do it, okay? And I did it every semester from 1998 to right before I retired. And we licensed over 700 freshmen in ham radio in that. So, thank you. I don't know if they're all active, but we did it. And the last thing I'll say is amateur radio, if you look around, okay, we see some young people here, but for this thing to flourish in the future, we got to have the youth. go to Carol Perry's forum tomorrow, the youth forum, okay? Everybody should be there. We got to promote the youth. And we need a lot of new innovations to keep the youth interested as well. There we go. Thank you very much.